You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darrow O'Connor on the...
Welcome to the Wrestling Rewind, the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling.
Hello everybody, it is Tuesday here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, the Truepenny Channel, Nerdtone Media and the WrestlingRewind.com. My name is Darrow O'Connor. Welcome to the only wrestling podcast by wrestling fans that don't hate wrestling. However, we will be talking about a terrible show this week, so I do apologise in advance for everybody. Look, we try.
In Your House does get better at some stage.
I was listening to two lads talk about it today, and they were like, good God Almighty, it gets better after this. And I mean, if there's ever like a description of something, when people are talking about this show, they're like, oh, thank God it gets better. And I was listening to Something to Wrestle With, which, by the way, Conrad Thompson shows, man. Oh, I can't. So I do try to just listen to those and fast forward through the best parts, because it's just like ads after ads.
Conrad Thompson, yeah. Like, I don't mind him personally, but
no, not him as a person is fine. But the way, like, listeners, we do not put that many ads on our shows. In fact, there's very rarely ads on our shows. There's usually the network break and stuff like that.
Jara, how are you feeling today, anyway? But before you tell me how you're feeling, let me tell you about BlueTube. I'm feeling great because I've got BlueTube. Oh my God!
I think you're like, literally, and I knew you were going with that. And it's what I'm trying to say here is, go over to our Patreon. Give us an X-Pac euro. No, but I mean,
you don't have a euro, if your money comes in dribs and drabs, we've a fascinating new tier that we started last week, whereby you just drop us a penny a day every day until CM Punk shows back up some more.
There you go. I think that's even more fair.
It's the Punk penny.
The Punk penny. And the thing about it is, you know, that's all our ads. Our ads at least get you something, compared to just you listening to this great story about something and bang an ad for God knows what. And I'm like, I don't even know what this product is. In fact, I'm going to buy its competitor, because that's how much it annoys me. I don't know if you're like that with ads sometimes, where you're like, I'm actively not going to get that product. I'm going to get its competitor purely because you've annoyed me so much.
You see, if I'm on YouTube and an ad comes up and it's 20 seconds or 15 seconds with no skip, I don't care if it takes me the next 20 minutes. I will close and open that video repeatedly until I get an ad that I can skip.
So here's one on YouTube. So, I mean, there are ways around that. I'm not going to, there are Chrome extensions, etc. You can also do VPNs and that. Speaking of VPNs, and I'm actually going to try and see if we can get like something for the show, because the one I use is phenomenal. But did you know, and I figured this out while I was in America, YouTube in America is not the same as YouTube in Ireland.
What?
And so obviously the content is relatively the same.
Oh, do you mean it's YouTube?
No. It's they're actually, I actually am going somewhere with this, right? So in Ireland, the YouTube is like, there's certain things blocked, etc. But that's more like content. That's geolocation. The app actually fundamentally works in a different way. So when you have YouTube Premium and it's like you can do something else while YouTube is playing in the background, that's free in America. So if you're if you're on an American connection, that's free. That's just how YouTube works. And so I'm using YouTube now with a VPN. So I'm just like, a lot of the ads that I get when I listen to podcasts are usually relevant because they think I'm in America. But yeah, I mean, there you go, folks. If you want YouTube to work properly, use a VPN. And this would be great to have a VPN sponsor, but we don't have one yet. So there we go.
We'll get one. Or do you know what? We're bound, like, I don't even think we need to accumulate an audience. I just think if you have a podcast for long enough, you get Raid Shadow Legends.
Or Audible. They just show up, just knock at your door, and they're like, here you go. They're like, here, you have a podcast. Okay.
Do you know what? I'm actually going to give it to Audible. I'm going to be okay with them because
Audible's cool, yeah.
A couple of years ago I signed up for Audible. Do you get the first month free and then you download a book?
Yeah.
And I got the book I wanted. And then I actually forgot about it. I completely forgot I had Audible. And like a year and a half later, I discovered that I'd been paying them $7.99 a month for like 18 months.
Wow.
And I emailed them and I was like, look at my account. I haven't opened the app. I haven't downloaded a single thing. Like, I signed up for your free trial and completely forgot about it. And they actually refunded me like 140 quid or whatever $7.99 for 18 months was. They actually refunded me.
Wow, that sound. And look, again, folks, we're not sponsored by anybody at the moment, so we're just, And here's the thing. So
apart from CM Punk,
except for there's Patreon is there, but you can tell this show is bad because whenever a show is bad, we talk about anything else but the show. Speaking of which, Vampire Survivors, Martin.
Oh,
the literally the greatest game I've ever played in my life. And I'd much rather talk about that than talk about In Your House.
I haven't been sucked into a frenzy like this since Power Washer Simulator came out.
Oh man, no, I didn't fall into that one, but I do like House Flipper.
Did you just avoid it, or did you not? Have you not tried it at all?
No, see, I don't have Game Pass, right? So I actually have to physically buy the games because I have a PS5 and a Switch, on Steam and that. But House Flipper, I got super into.
It's Steam you have. For some reason, I keep confused. I keep thinking Steam is Microsoft, but it's not. It's its own thing, isn't it?
It's its own thing, yeah. Steam is owned by Valve. And it's like where you get your PC games. But, I haven't got Game Pass. That's why I just didn't. So I probably will pick it up eventually. I know some people who like love it. House Flipper was like I put a lot of time into, and that was like kind of the first one of those games. But Vampire Survivors, I mean, guys, listen, if you take nothing away from this show, take two things away.
There's very little else to take away.
There's very little else.
There's one excellent Bret Hart match.
In Your House 5, terrible. Three things. 2, VPNs in America make YouTube work properly. And 3, Vampire Survivors is the greatest game you've never played yet. It's wonderful. It looks terrible. It looks like this is a joke, and it really isn't. It's a phenomenal game.
You'd be so confused when you first start it because you'd be like, what's the shoot button? But you'll see, like, within 10 minutes, you will just be absolutely hooked. It is so much like Power Washer Simulator, not in gameplay, but in that whenever I started that game, I was like, so this is it. I'm just walking around with a power washer. This is the dumbest thing I've ever done. And then it was like 4 hours later. There's
like a bunch of different video essays on Vampire Survivors. And some guy who's a game designer actually breaks it down. He's like, this game is stupid, but it's not. It's incredible. It appeals to like every part of our brain because it was designed by a guy who actually like, he was a coder for slot machines. So it's literally like a slot machine. And that's why it's so addictive, but it just triggers all
the dopamine receptors. Isn't it?
It's just everything that it does, it like just works. But also, like we were talking about this before we went on air, that like there's a bit like when you reach like, so basically the game kind of kills you after half an hour because the Reaper comes and that's the end. But just before that, you're just like a god, just walking through waves upon waves, and the screen is just filled. It's just this mess of pixels.
Hundreds and hundreds of ghosts, vampires, werewolves, mummies, ghouls.
And it's unlike anything else. You're just there like, this is unbelievable. And look, I mean, it's €3. Give the guy money.
Oh, yeah.
it's such good value.
It's free on Game Pass. So
that's true.
You have it with Game Pass, or like Dara says, you buy it on Switch or PlayStation. It is like, depending on what region you buy it in, it's like between €1.50 and €3.
It's really not expensive. And I mean, it's one of those games where I will just pick up and play, before bed, when I have a break in the day. I have a couple of flights coming up. I just know the entirety of the flight is going to be, because that's three good sessions. If you're going to like London or even France or whatever, like about 2 hours, you can just kill that with 3 to 4 really good sessions in Vampire Survivors.
And I have easily played more than that in a row.
Oh yeah, you just look, if you haven't played it, absolutely do. And it's great as well for like when you're listening to a podcast. Because I'll just stick on a podcast and just hockey away with it. Like that's why I use play video games.
The only problem with it is that you run out of bloody podcasts. Like,
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Everyone has a podcast nowadays, but whenever you're playing like this or Power Washer Simulator, you're like, God, I wish more people had podcasts.
Well, there you go.
Completed all the podcasts.
That's what Spotify should do. They should have like an achievement section for podcasts where you hockey through a bunch of them. But as I said, today I was listening to the New Generation podcast, two random lads on YouTube who aren't us talking about it. Because I was watching it and I'm like,
you telling me someone apart from us had the idea to do a podcast about wrestling?
I know, right? It's unbelievable. How dare they? But because I had to do a sanity check because we didn't talk before the show. We did earlier on today, but this is, you asked me what are we doing? I was like, it's 5, and I was just like, this is so bad. Like, surely I can't be the only one who thinks it's bad. It's like, no, like Bruce Pritchard is like, yeah, this is the worst show of all time. and I thought
it's bad when he says it because he normally tries to put like a
he tries to put
a spin on everything.
Exactly, yeah, and Conrad was there trying to like tease stuff out for him. He's like, no, it's just really bad, and I think it's a combination of a few things, which we will get into. Like, but I think I need everyone to bear that in mind that like this is infamous for how bad it is, which is why we spent 10 minutes, 20 minutes talking about something else. Because
is it one of the worst WWF pay-per-views ever?
I would say so. I would say it's definitely up there. I mean, like we'll get into it, but before we get into it, right now we're recording this on Fridays and we're going to start going live again. Like Martin and myself both do training on Fridays, so that's why we haven't really figured out going live yet, but we will in the near future, and the YouTube is going to be reactivated as well. So if you guys want all that kind of content, go over and sign up because it is going to be there. But we are training,
and whenever we get our live shows, not our live on air shows, like our live in-person shows, at like some sort of Comic-Cons or whatever, whenever we get them going again, we've got a great idea for everybody. We're going to invite you all to the trial of the century. The trial of Vince McMahon.
There you go. And that's a story in and of itself. But we are trying to figure this out. As I said, Fridays just get kind of busy for us. So, we're just trying to.
We're too happening.
Crazy.
We're too happening young bucks, young stallions. Like we got a lot going on a Friday.
I don't know, man. I mean, it's just one of those things, right? There's not enough hours in the day. There really isn't. But listen, okay. So big news that's breaking today and it kind of broke during the week is that WWE, obviously, the sale with Endeavor happened. They're now with the UFC called TKO. They had their first Raw, which was interesting in and of itself. And then what happened was news that there's going to be some releases. And I mean, when a company's bought over, when M&As happen, there's obviously collateral because, there's a job duplication, integration, that kind of stuff. That is how it works, right? Companies, when they buy other companies, downsize quite a lot. So what's funny about this is when I'm watching people's reaction to it, I'm like, wow, you guys have never don't know how businesses work. On the one hand, I'm like, Jesus, you've never actually been in a company that bought someone or have been bought by someone. This is very weird. Because, I mean, this is like, a lot of people, like you specifically, you were like, how did you know that WWE was going to be bought? Or, we were talking about it. I'm like, because they're doing everything you would do when you were going to get bought.
This is 2 years now. This is Dara's V-Day.
Yeah, no, it is.
Vindication Day. But Dara, from the day and the hour I met him, has been telling me WWE is going to be sold.
Yeah, but it's because I saw this coming. And now when they're doing all the stuff that big American corporations do, big corporations in general, but my own experience is with American corporations. they do this, and I'm just like, lads, how do you think this business works? Like, come on.
They do, but like, okay, so I actually had this conversation during the week.
Go on.
You're 100% right that this was inevitable. Everybody expected this.
It's not even inevitable. It's literally how it works. Like, there's
But I don't think it makes it any less scummy.
No,
I don't think its business is an excuse for immorality. And it would be one thing if this was, like you say, a major coalition or takeover or purchase or whatever way they're spinning it. But it'd be one thing if this was a major merger and this had happened as a one-off. But WWE has a long, inglorious history of breaking contracts, of treating wrestlers like they're independent contractors, but expecting them to act like employees, of reneging on contracts, of firing people like midway through events, of firing hundreds and hundreds of people in the midst of a pandemic after they had spam hired hundreds and hundreds of people just so they wouldn't go to the new competition that was being set up. So, like, it's one thing to dismiss it as this is how business is done, and that is not fair enough, but that is an accurate representation of late stage capitalism. But this is not a one-off for WWE. This is
no. You are right. You're exactly right in everything you've said. With one addendum, when companies do M&As, they literally have a run book. Actually, every process has a run book. So that somewhere, I wouldn't even say this is specifically WWE. This one, because it can't be. I mean, how could it be? Like, it's not. WWE doesn't really exist anymore. TKO have these run books, and they're like, "Hey, we need to get rid of all of this." I mean,
so come here.
You know,
here's where you can help me out. We're going to do like
I'll do what I can. I'll do what I can.
We're going to do a kind of a live reaction thing now, because I am fully aware of the 100 or so people that they fired from like administrative roles and stuff like that. But because I have not seen Grand Slam, and no matter what I do, whenever I try to watch a show not live, it always gets spoiled for me somehow. Like, even when I think I've sorted everything out, like, I'm not looking at Twitter, I'm not looking at Facebook, I'm not looking at YouTube.
The only solution is to just not be on the internet until it's over.
It's exactly.
That's it. Genuinely.
I did all that. Like, I ignored all social media. This is a couple of years ago. Ignored all social media, and I sat down to watch Dynamite on a Friday night. And just before I sat down, I got an email, and I opened the email, and it was from Pro Wrestling Tees advertising their new Sting T-shirt, and that's how bloody Sting showing up was spoiled for me. So I'm desperate not to have Grand Slam spoiled, because there are matches in it like.
Oh, you haven't seen the releases?
Claudio, Eddie Kingston, like. I was not letting this be spoiled. So I haven't ignored my apps. I have deleted Twitter, deleted Facebook, deleted YouTube. I've gotten everything off my phone. So I have not heard any wrestling news.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Well, this just changes exactly what I was going to talk about. I mean, look, I know it sounds kind of heartless with what I said, but it's not. It's more like the way business is done. It's like, that's how it's done. You know, and that's why so many people were fired. But and look, it sucks. I mean, look, we went through layoffs. Not fun. It is actually horrible. But this wasn't unexpected. What was unexpected, I'll be honest with you, was who they cut. Some of them not so much. I mean, when I say jobber, it's a capital J for a lot of these people. There was only two that were actually genuinely surprising. I mean, one I got to see in person recently, and I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen.
Oh, hold on. So they've released talent.
Yeah, they released 2 sets of talent.
Right. Okay. So you're going to tell me who?
I am.
But I get the backstage people, because they're like, oh well, we actually don't need 2, I don't know, social media companies, because
they don't need 2. Like, usually what happens with M&A,
but when it comes to
there's
talent, I'm surprised. So
this is where the story gets a bit interesting, right? So usually when one company buys another, they won't duplicate roles, right? Because there's no point. With talent, they had to cut down here because obviously they want a slimmer product. And there's also
This is
talk of,
after WWE already fired waves of talent.
Yeah, but
in preparation for a sale.
But these people, I don't know how a lot of these people kept their jobs. I mean, they were like they were doing a JTG thing, hiding and catering, like, and you know, they answered the phone. That's the problem. You know, if you've read JTG's book or the two of them, which I have, they're great read. His advice for talent is never answer your phone. It's genius.
Can't fire you if you
can't fire you if you don't answer your phone. You know, and he's saying his one regret in life is that he answered his phone, because I mean, he had a job for like 6 years and nobody knew he was there. So I mean, I think this kind of happened with a lot of them.
Does that happen to Ace Steel?
I think so, yeah. Oh, he's still there. There you go.
Tony ringing him obsessively 24 hours a day from the moment he fired Dunk.
It's like, I just keep it in his voicemail. What's going on? Okay, so look, again, the reaction to this has been surprising in lots of ways. One, that like there were two people here, and there, well, 2 to 3 people that would genuinely be the only ones who I'd be like, okay, that was kind of silly. But a lot of people are like, oh, I can't believe this is like, it's just weird. I don't know what world people live in where they can't engage with like reality. But anyway, so
tell me
I'm going to tell you
who you think the big names are.
So Dolph Ziggler was fired.
Right.
Shelton,
that is surprising, because he's like a real hand. So
the three ones, the only 3 stars in this whole mix, right? Ziggler, Shelton Benjamin,
what?
Elias. Yeah.
Elias,
yeah.
Holy hell.
I know, right? That was my reaction. Like the 3 of those, it's like that's a good mid card. That's your strong mid card.
Those are your and I'm not one to trumpet Jim Cornette a lot, but he always says, if I am starting a wrestling company, I don't need 20 Hulk Hogans.
No.
I need 1 Hulk Hogan, I need 1 Ultimate Warrior, I need 1 Undertaker, and then I need 17 guys who can job to them.
Yeah, and that's Elias, Shelton Benjamin, and Dolph Ziggler.
Holy hell.
That's their role. And the thing about it is, like, Ziggler's been great. Yeah, he's been underutilized. People have been screaming about him. Oh, AEW. I will have to say, now he will get a chance to go to AEW, and I hope he does well, because I mean, there are some news. I'm not going to explain it. Not going to say anything more than that.
Oh yes,
Martin.
good,
I'm not going to say anything more than that. But there are like different stories from AEW and stuff that's happened where, you know, this is quite beneficial for them. I'll leave it at that.
It's funny though, because like of the 3 guys you said, Ziggler, and not just because his brother is there, Ziggler's the one I can see like actually going to AEW
and doing really well. Yeah,
because he is a work rate guy. Like
he is. He fits in perfectly. I mean, look, the matches he can have. Look, the matches he can have. He can have a complete career reinvention, right? Where he goes in. His matches with Sting Blade would be unbelievable. Omega, the Bucks, Daniel Bryan for as long as he's there. Mox, you know, you throw him in there with anybody and he's going to have a really, really good match. Matches we haven't seen before, and then he can do all the matches with the New Japan lads, and even then go to Ring of Honor. Look, his career is kind of going to restart there, and it's not just a case of he's an ex-WWE guy. It's no, like, I mean, you probably should look. As much as I hate to agree with the internet on a lot of things, I do agree with them on this. He probably should have been there sooner, but at the end of the day, he was like, "We're getting paid boatloads of money. I'm gonna stay here," you know.
And isn't his real passion like stand-up comedy?
Yeah, I mean, he can do that too. Like,
well, the great thing about AEW is that because it's not like a silo, because it acknowledges the rest of the wrestling world, he doesn't even have to like sign up to AEW. He can go there and do, you know, a run, and then go off to Japan, and then go off
and he probably will,
you know, other companies, and then come back, and then.
But then there's also Impact. You can go to Impact and just be like the king of that place. You know, Shelton Benjamin, I think he'll probably get a job as a talent, like an agent somewhere. Either
I was
Impact
thinking
or AEW.
Shelton must be a brave age by now.
Yeah, he is. He's not a spring chicken anymore, but definitely someone who, if I was running a wrestling company, I'd want as an agent.
Yeah.
And Elias, poor Elias. I mean, look,
I like where Elias goes.
He goes to Impact.
You think so? Yeah.
That's right. Oh yeah. I mean, look, man, he can't go to Ring of Honor. He can't go to AEW. He can go to Impact. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
Impact, like that's who you want. That's your new champion. You build that around him, you know? Okay, so they're the stars, right?
So,
And, okay.
give me the overall number, by the way. What's the overall number?
It's still happening. So I have the current list in front of me, but it's still happening.
Oh, what are we talking about? Dozens or?
About 25. 25, yeah, there's a fair bit. They fired Emma, which I'm sad about because I like Emma. But she can go back to Impact now and be the better version of Emma. So I'm going to read the full list here, right?
Okay.
Dolph Ziggler, Shelton Benjamin, Elias's brother.
Even I got that one, and I didn't even watch the show.
Yeah, I'm glad you got that one. Mustafa Ali, Emma.
What? Hold on, Mustafa Ali.
Yeah.
Oh man, that should have been one of your big. Like, it's not that I particularly think he's a star, but man, he's a guy they really pushed.
Oh, and it gets better. Madcast Moss.
Madcap Moss.
Yeah.
Again, like a guy I recognize because he was going to be pushed big, and then didn't he get like a really, really serious injury, like just before WrestleMania or something?
Yes,
like that?
he did. Aaliyah, Top Dollar, Rick Boggs, Dabba Kato, Bronson Montana, Shanky, Mace, Mansoor, Quincy Miller, and Dana Brooke.
Oh. Okay, so already some of those guys you've mentioned, this seems very much like Vince getting back at Triple H because those are all his NXT guys. Bronson, Boogs, Davikato, those are all Triple H's NXT guys.
Yeah, and they're like a few of them were ones that were hired back. I'll be honest with you, the one that makes the most sense here is Top Dollar, right?
I don't even know it.
No, I see again. Like I don't watch the product consistently because I just can't. But he showed up in Dublin and I was like, what the hell is this? And it was the worst thing I've ever seen. And then I went.
Did he even like do a joke and come out as top Euro or?
No. He tried to get cheapy about Dublin being part of the UK, which I mean, fair enough.
Yeah, Dara, we're heading for the GPO.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, it was that's the best he could do, you know. And it was the worst thing ever. And I went out and got like some beer and hot dogs because I was like, this is terrible. I would rather be anywhere else than in here. I wouldn't mind when you get a hot dog and a beer in the Tree Arena. It's like €16. It's crazy. So that's how much I don't like Top Dollar. I would rather spend money that I don't have.
You'd rather pay a Top Dollar than watch Top Dollar.
Exactly. So now he's unemployed dollar. So terrible.
Signing on, Dollar.
Terrible talent. But yeah, look, Mustafa Ali and Mansoor, like, they wheel those lads out to like for the Saudi shows, and I'm like, you probably should have just kind of hung on to them for that alone.
I would have thought Mansoor would have been kept in catering just for the Saudi shows.
Yeah. I mean, like they would wheel those lads out to like do things there. I know like, Mustafa Ali has a much wider scope than just, you know, shows in Saudi Arabia. But
and he was actually good.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, he was actually good. Like, he's actually quite good. And I mean, he's someone, not someone you could build a company around, but I mean, definitely someone who has much more of an upside. Let's put it that way. But the thing about it is, I think Mansoor knew, look, I'm only here because, you know, the lads are paying paycheck and, you know.
Yeah.
Mustafa Ali.
I could see him getting fired at the end of this, but they're only halfway through like their 10-year contract.
That's it, yeah. I mean, but the Mustafa Ali thing, I think he knew himself that he was better than just the odd show. And they were giving him a bit of a push now, particularly with Dominic Mysterio, but
wasn't he like this terrible like hacker character?
No, here's the thing, he was supposed to be, but they never like committed to it, and then he was supposed to be part of what was that group called?
Retribution.
Yeah,
God, do you remember Retribution?
Yeah, the Antifa kind of guys.
We needed a Retribution arc
No, please God,
in
no.
20 years.
No.
When it's old wrestling.
It was bad the first time. I don't particularly want to. Oh no! But his hacker gimmick could have been cool, but they didn't like do anything with it. It was weird. Emma is sad too because I really liked Emma. But like what's weird about this is right. There's an announcement that they're doing Elimination Chamber in Australia, right? So
Did they
Emma
even have enough people left to do an elimination?
Here's the thing. Emma actually tweeted about it and she goes, "Oh, I can't wait," because she's obviously Australian. And it's like, oh, like literally,
No.
but like 4 hours later, they're like, "Oh yeah, you're fired." It's like, oh my God, dude, this is cold even for me. When I think everyone expected this, but I'm like, at least don't do that, But I don't know, man.
Come here, Dar. I'm sickening myself because I said 2 weeks ago, like, this is the end. I until he shows up, I never want to talk about him again. But do you think all these fired people, they're not big, they're not hey gays.
I know what
you're
going to say.
Their combined salaries might make up the salary of one Charles Montgomery Punk?
Cookie Monster Punk. So there was another report. Well, actually, it wasn't a report. It was true. He was doing commentary for
for
MMA.
Yeah,
and he was like,
not
look,
UFC, but it's like
yeah, it was like an indie fed basically. And he was like, look, I have the next 2 months free.
What do you think?
And he also hasn't. He's just decided to not sue Tony. So what I think happened here is they're like, look, it's not working out. We're going to waive any non-compete. I won't sue you. You don't sue me. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to show back up in WWE and doing. That's what's happening. I
think the reason he decided not to sue Tony is because there is video footage of him attacking Jungle Boy. Like,
yeah, I mean, but like, come on, he needed a bit of hiding, But
no, well, like my point was that like, so we had this discussion a couple of weeks ago when we did the whole firing thing. But
I mean, it's wrestling. He could be like, oh, we were working an angle. Look, we were playing.
The reason I think, but that's it. Like Tony Khan loved Punk so much that if there was any way of keeping him on, he would have. Like the evidence must have just been overwhelming.
Yeah. No, but look, I think what happened there, right? Not to go over it again because we've done it to death.
We
but
won't go over.
What I think, and if you guys do want to check it out, go listen to the show where we do talk about it for an hour. Extensively. What I think happened here is, right, I think you might have actually predicted it. The salaries and who they fired, they're like, okay, we don't really need these guys, but we do need a star to come in. And yeah, if they do like, I mean, think about it. They have The Rock back. They have Cena back because Hollywood has shut down. So they have like a big WrestleMania match. You have 2 big WrestleMania matches made just on those. If you get Punk in for another WrestleMania match, and he's main event in WrestleMania night 1, that's what's happened. That's like the top thing he's asking for, along with the ice cream bars. He wants those, and I can see that happening. I think, yeah, that would explain why they fired. Did he fire?
He has a terrible relationship with AEW, with WWE, but I don't know what his relationship with UFC is like. So maybe they use that side of it to.
I don't think it matters. What's happening is now TKO are like, we like money, and he's going to make boatloads of money, which he will.
I don't think it's like, for me, I just don't think it's money. I don't think he's motivated by money. Because he could have come back at any stage over the past 7 years if it was money he wanted.
No. I mean, TKO are like, they're saying money. They'd probably drive like, that bit in The Simpsons where it's like, God, they drove a dump truck full of money up. I'm not made of stone, and it's like, look, if Punk is in WrestleMania next year, I will go to WrestleMania.
I honestly got, and that for the past year I have raved about his matches, and when people were saying, "Oh, he botched the buckshot Larry" and all that, I did. It was real bad. It was real bad. His buckshot was terrible. Yeah. I love his matches, love his promos, love his storytelling. Like, I am a big Punk guy, and when we went and saw him live in All In,
it was amazing.
For his last AEW match, possibly his last match. Who knows? Like, that was huge. But man, over this whole thing, I have lost a lot of respect from.
I mean, that's fair, but I think there's more going on here than just, a reorg. Like firing like this massive list of talent that they're obviously trying to source from. Now, there's another story that WWE are looking to move away from Fox for SmackDown to go back to the USA Network. So, we'll have to keep an eye on that. But
what's the advantage of that? Sure, didn't Fox throw $1 billion at them?
Yeah, as I said, look, because of this new venture, this new company, a lot of these things can be changed and re-altered. So, we just have to see what's happening. But in the 25 minutes we have left, Martin, we do have to get to In Your House. So,
okay.
In Your House 5, Seasons Beatings, as it's known, came out everybody's way from Hershey Park.
The most generic Christmas name you could give.
No, I think it's generic now because so many metal shows around Christmas have used it.
Oh, man, yeah.
That's why.
So you think this was the original?
I think because it was like 30 something years ago. So probably, yeah. I don't think it was ever used before this. But it's from Hershey Park in Pennsylvania. Now, I've been to Hershey Park, right? Hershey Park's class. It's a roller coaster park, and like you can get chocolate. It's amazing.
Chocolate's terrible though.
Okay. Hershey bars by themselves taste like sick, but they still remind me of being a child because, I went to America so much as a kid that I'm like, oh, this reminds me of being like 8 again. I will agree with you. Hershey chocolate by itself, you have one bar to be nostalgic and you're like, oh, this is pretty bad, alright.
That's actually kind of similar to myself because I used to be very sick when I was a child, and now whenever I drink enough Buckfast, it just brings me right back to my glory days. But
so okay, so this is one of the shows that it was actually, so the tickets were sold lower than normal because obviously to get people in, but normally so is the pay-per-view. This is the first show that they've actually raised the prices. So they raised the price a fair bit because the buy rate was so low. The attendance was around 7,000, just over it. And it wasn't good. The tagline, basically, or the whole premise around this was that like the Hart Foundation is crumbling, and that it's not going to be a happy Christmas for basically Bret Hart's whole family, right? Now, from the get-go on this, when I saw the card, I was like, okay, yeah, it might be okay. It has a casket match. The Undertaker is actually showing up. The first time we've seen The Undertaker on one of these shows. And Owen Hart is there. It can't be too bad if Owen Hart's there. Bret's there. Triple H is there. And then I looked at the match and I was like, oh my God.
Man, on paper, I was even excited about the opening match.
Yeah, and the opening match actually turns out to be probably the match of the night in a lot of ways.
Nope.
Well, I liked it. I thought it wasn't too bad. I mean, I was surprised by it, to be honest with you. But match night's kind of hard because Bret Hart has a pretty good match with the Bulldog, and the casket match is horrific. But we'll get into it when we do. I think the problem here was this is so I did some research on this. This happens just before Nitro really takes off. So they do the Nitro with Alundra Blaze or Medusa throwing the belt in. That happens literally the next day.
That's a big moment. She puts the WWF Women's title in the bin live on WCW television.
It also is like the start of Nitro really kicking WWE's teeth in.
Can you imagine if Twitter was around?
Oh my God, hold on a second. Punk still has the AEW belt.
Oh yeah,
he could show up again, the real world champion. Oh my God, that'd be so cool.
What? I'd actually like that, but I think with the no suing, I think he's just gonna.
I don't know.
He drop a lot.
I don't know. That'd be cool though. But yes, if Twitter had can you imagine people would have lost their mind?
Oh, with Alundra dropping the Oh my God! Just it's haywire.
Because it's such a unique thing to have done.
I honest to God think if that had happened at a time when Twitter was around, and as you say, it's so unique, I think that would have been the birth of brand new misogynistic terms. I think they would have had to invent new terms of misogyny for the common stuff.
Oh well, okay. You know what? Oh, so I found something more toxic than wrestling Twitter.
Oh,
Can I tell you about this? So the Irish national team is like football team is awful. They have been for many years. This is not news for anybody. And I'm not a football person. I like my sport fake, or you know.
We were all right in the 90s.
Yeah. Okay. Up until
Give her a last Jack.
Up until the World Cup, right? No, that was about it. But yeah, so I was just, I just won't watch it. As I said, I like my sport fake, and that's kind of it. But I was on it recently. Ireland were playing someone, and they got battered like 15-0 or something. And it's the most toxic crowd of people ever met. I'm like, whoa! I thought wrestling Twitter was it's just so bad, so toxic.
Soccer fans are toxic.
Yeah, I know, but I was just like, because my Twitter is literally wrestling and like random bits of memes and computer stuff, and it just went over to it. I was like, whoa! Wrestling fans have a lot to learn. They can learn from these people and metastasize into like one of those homunculuses from Akira.
Here's a question.
Go on.
So, like, we all know that everything, like, Twitter makes everything worse. And
everything, absolutely everything, yeah.
And it's, it's the immediacy of it. It's the fact that it's so
unfiltered
and anonymous and unfiltered. Yeah, it's stuff you'd never. But also, it's the fact that the word limit doesn't allow for like subtlety or nuance or explanation. Is there a fan base that's not toxic? What's the least toxic fan base?
No, I think you'll find that every fan base at some point is extremely toxic.
I bet you it's something awful.
You know what it is?
I bet you there's like a really awful product, but like the nicest fan base. I bet you like tentacle porn has like the loveliest fan base. I love these moments of silence that Dara uses to decide when he's going to hit the edit button.
No, you've actually like stumped me for words because I don't know how to respond to that. I mean, I think every kind of fan base at some point, like there's there's so many videos on YouTube of like people going to different fandoms and stuff like that, and at some point there is just like this weird section of it, I don't know, man. I mean, this is up there with the femboys. I don't know how to respond to it.
So, like the core question, like, have you ever come across on Twitter like a non-toxic fan base?
No.
For anything?
No.
See, that's why I think that it's not even people. I think Twitter, the platform, is the problem.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, a lot of Twitter is bots, and that was proven when Elon had a look at the code. I mean, making a Twitter bot is super easy. But I don't know. I just think it's just like the rabble mentality where it's like, oh, this thing happened, and then like that's kind of the cool thing about Twitter is like you can respond in real time, and you can just kind of like I used to like live tweet pretty much everything, and then I just kind of stopped because I was like, there's no point. And I think people like do that, but for like real life important things. But when it comes to like fan bases, whatever it is, like we're wrestling, you're like, oh, that was kind of stupid as far as like the booking of it. They should have booked it better, or that match was bad because of the performance. When it's sport and people are really invested in it because people really are into sport, which is I'm like, okay, cool. But like they're like, this person's the worst person ever, blah blah blah. I'm like, whoa, they kick a ball around. Calm down.
Yeah. Hope you day. Hope your whole family days. Hope you watch them day.
Exactly.
He's like a sub for like Tottenham Hotspur. Leave him alone.
It's like, listen, this is worth it, buddy. He's going back to his part-time job in the chipper. Like, calm down. It's wild. It's wild. Like I've never seen that before. Where you're like, okay, and. It's embarrassing when you're more toxic than wrestling fans who are like, so just all in all, Twitter Twitter makes things worse. But I think if it had have existed in this time, it would have been even worse again.
World War III. I think literal wars would have been started.
Well, there was. We were in the middle of a one between WCW and WWE.
Monday Night Wars.
Exactly. So look, I mean, again, that's probably why the show is so bad, because WCW is cooking on all cylinders. They've really kind of got their product sorted out. It's after the steroid trials, so Vince is trying to like not push lads who are roided out beyond all recognition.
WCW is going through like a real hot period, and Vince is throwing out hug pen matches and wondering why he's not winning the ratings.
Exactly. And I think there's a combination of creative burnout and Vince really not knowing what he's doing. Like when you're watching this show, a lot of the charm just isn't there. Jeff Jarrett did come back though, which was great.
To absolutely no pop.
I popped.
Do you know what? Like, so we covered this in the last In Your House, that Jarrett did In Your House.
Yeah.
Did that like in Tennessee, wasn't it?
Yes.
Did that amazing like lip syncing thing, like where it was actually Road Dogg singing backstage. Like, it was such good heat. It was amazing. And if they had capitalized on that, like, do you remember we talked about how like unique and what brilliant heel heat that was?
Yes.
And then he went away, and then he came back 5 months later, and nobody cared.
It was all gone. Yeah, it was all gone. It was like
timing is like, I'm all for like a promoter mapping something out and sticking to it, but sometimes you just have to go, this thing is hot right now, we got to capitalize on it.
They struck when the iron was ice cold.
Shattered the iron.
They had finished with the iron, put it away, and came back to it about 4 days later, and that's when they're like, oh, let's do this. So that was sad, but I was happy to see Double J back. The first match had like, I actually kind of liked it a fair bit. I was surprised how good Marty Jannetty was, which was weird. It should have been a one-on-one match with Razor and 123 Kid, but this whole arc has been keeping them as far away as possible from each other, using various and varied gimmicks. And it wasn't really surprising to see Razor and Jannetty get the win. It was surprising to see Marty Jannetty actually like wrestle, and apparently though he showed up on Raw pretty much every week during this period, so I feel bad for Marty Jannetty. I really do.
Like, I was kind of disappointed by this match, and again, not like you're saying you enjoyed it, and that's fair enough.
Wouldn't say I enjoyed it.
Well,
I didn't enjoy anything on this card, but you know,
didn't hate it. But, like, what annoyed me about it was that the potential was there for something amazing. So like, oh my god, Jannetty and the Kid. Like, that's a high-flying match in 1995. That's unheard of. That would have been amazing. And also, Jannetty and Psycho Sid, or the Kid and Razor, you got this amazing big man, small man thing. And then, the Kid and Psycho Sid, as a tag team, that's incredible. Like, they could have done so much with that. Like, you could have had the Kid doing, like, the cowardly, you know, sniveling, like, cheeky heel stuff, and then whenever someone goes to slap him, like, Psycho Sid steps in, and Psycho Sid could have been the power guy, and Kid could have been doing like the fast, like they could have done amazing double team moves. You could have called the team Psycho Kid. Like,
it's brilliant.
There was so much here, and there was flashes of it. Like, some of the interactions between the Kid and Marty Jannetty were amazing. Like, Marty Jannetty pulled out like a top rope blockbuster in 1995. Like,
you know what it was? I don't think Vince had a vision for what he was doing. I think at this point, I don't even think it, Bruce Pritchard pretty much confirmed it today when I was listening to the show. He was spinning his wheels. Like, they were completely just battered by WCW. And like, we need to respond. Let's just try stuff. And instead of having, like, again, they had Bret Hart as their guy, and you weren't able to make that work enough that the show felt like it was built around it. You know, like, the rest of the show was completely random, and it never felt like, they'd bring it up, obviously, but it was like, you know what I mean? It didn't, like, okay.
It felt like an episode of Raw. It didn't feel like a pay-per-view.
Well, yeah, that too, but 1996 this was? 95?
95.
95. So
95.
4 years
95.
later.
95 is not a good year.
No, it's not a good year. Although it is thankfully the end of it. But 4 years later, they would have their whole show based around what Austin was doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it was like, you knew, okay, random stuff would happen and be nonsense, but it was entertaining nonsense. And in the end, isn't that the real truth? The answer is no. But
wasn't the real journey the nonsense we did along the way?
But yeah, like, and that's kind of what this show was missing for me. There was no where you could kind of buy into, you know. It was just like, here's a lot of stuff.
Well, Dara, and I hate to interrupt you, but
oh, I'm interested with this. Tell me, where did you buy in?
I bought in the first match.
Okay.
And it wasn't because of the match. As I said, the match was, to me, slightly disappointing. Not because it was bad, but because I thought it had so much potential and it was so layered with potential. But my God, in the middle of this match, the middle of the match, by the way, not afterwards, didn't the camera cut to our old friend Todd Pettigrew? The
host?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
He hopped into the audience. And who was in the audience? But Goldust.
Yeah. Oh,
now,
man.
What
Okay.
Goldust had become later on when they told him to sort of, oh, you're getting like maybe too much heat, maybe tone back the homoerotic stuff. This was before he had been told to tone it back. And this was amazing. So Todd Pettigrew comes up to him, and the first thing Goldust says to him is, Todd, are you here for an affair? Oh my God. 10-10, best pay-per-view ever.
I will have to say, Goldust, and again, we're just at that line where, you know, hold on, we'll hang on to this for the podcast because I don't know what we can say. We'll hang on. You know what? We'll hang on to Goldust for literally another 5 minutes.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, we're going like, so we had plans to keep it to a tight 55, but
no, we can't.
We're going for the podcast.
Yeah, we have to talk about Goldust. That was wild.
It's amazing.
That was wild that happened tonight.
If Todd, are you here for an affair, has piqued your interest, you gotta head over to the podcast.
You do. You know, there's certain things I have to cut out of this show. Obviously, there's one thing specifically I'm gonna have to cut out of the podcast this week, but the live show. But the podcast.
What was that?
But the podcast is always uncut. The live show sometimes, you know, we have to mind our P's and Q's. But before we go to break and then into the podcast, Martin, what would you say for people to watch this show? What was actually a good match that you'd be like, oh, this was actually worth it, or was there one?
So whenever we go into the podcast, we'll do it in detail. But the Bret Hart Bulldog match, the main event, is excellent. And for me personally, Bret Hart's my favorite wrestler. I mean, in recent years, Kenny Omega's been creeping up on him, and that has surprised even me. But Bret Hart's still my all-time favorite. So I had never actually seen this pay-per-view because it's one of those ones that got lost in the mix. So imagine that there's something you love, like you really love it, and then 20 years later, you stumble across a version of it you've never seen. Say you're like mad into Friends. You've seen every episode of Friends. You love Friends. You know, you've watched Friends so much you could recite.
We have breaking news. Breaking news.
Go. What?
Matt Riddle is no longer with WWE.
Oh, that was kind of be expected after.
Yeah, I know, but come on,
that's
insane. He just, he's gone.
Yeah, there you go, folks.
There you go.
And I'd say he's not the only one. I'd say this must be another wave. Then is it?
So over 100 employees have been gone already.
God, there's such a company.
So many, so many.
But anyway, say you're a big fan of Friends and you've known all the episodes of Friends, and then 20 years later, you discover an episode of Friends you've never seen. Like, wouldn't you be delighted? So I had never seen this pay-per-view, and I had never seen this Bret Hart match, and it's actually it's a brilliant Bret Hart match. So like that for me, I think is something worth watching, and The gold dust nonsense is just incredible.
So there's a great
balls on that man.
There's a great meme actually, and it's from You Can't See meme, Simpsons wrestling memes and news.
Nice.
And it's Vince, so it's the bit, the Radioactive Man movie, the episode of Simpsons, when you have the edit it and they're like, you're fired.
They do nothing.
And with good cause, right? And it's
yes.
It's Vince and Triple H just puzzled, and they're like, "You're fired," and it's just Matt Riddle saying, "And with good cause." It's amazing. So I can send it to you in the chat. Actually, folks, it's so good. I'm going to put it on our social media, and if you're not following us on social media, please do go over to the WrestlingRewind.com. There's a link tree. All the links are there. Please follow us on social media where we can share memes and have the crack. Because at the end of the day, that's what wrestling is all about.
If you're on the flipping social media, once I see Grand Slam and re-download all these cursed apps, we're going to start like a bit of a kind of a resurgence of our social media, and we're going to start dropping like wee clips of the shows and wee memes and stuff like that. I have a wee bank of them made, ready to go, and I'm excited. It's going to be fun.
We're actively going to try. We're not going to try. We're going to do. We're actively going to.
We're like Orange Cassidy. We're going to try.
Exactly. And we have no catchphrase. Even though we do. We have a few of them. But so go over to WrestlingRewind.com now. And then follow our social media and you'll get to see that phenomenal meme, which has absolutely made my day because it's the best thing ever. And we'll be back after this short break on the podcast. So if you are listening on Phoenix FM, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back after this short break for the rest of this show and a lot of talk about Gold Dust because holy heck, it's something else. We'll talk to you after this short break. Goodbye, guys.
Join us for an affair.
You have nothing else to do on a Saturday? Do you like nerd things? Now check out Nerd to Know Basis here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then head over to nerdtoknowmedia.com for all of our shows as part of the Nerd to Know Media radio network.
Sin Cara, friendly neighborhood Sin Cara. Wears a mask, only fights underneath stupid lights. Look out, here comes the Sin Cara. Can he botch? Listen, jerk, his Huracan runner will never work. Jumps the ropes, that was nice. This match was recorded twice. Look out, there goes the Sin Cara.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.
All right, everybody, we're back here on not on Phoenix FM because we can't because we're going to talk about Gold Dust and Gold Dust the 1995. Holy Christ! But we are on the WrestlingRewind.com, Nerd to Know Media, and the Truepenny channel. Thank you so much again. If this is your first time checking out the podcast, go over to social media and go to Patreon. We have many tiers, including the X-Pac Euro or the 123 Euro or the 123 Punt. Because back in 1995, we used the punt in Ireland, not the euro. So maybe that's what we should do, Martin. We should have
very effectively
the Haindoe tree punt.
For any who haven't seen the punt,
it's amazing.
The average punt coin was about the size of a frisbee.
I literally have one here. I literally have one. No, I literally have one right here, like on my work desk. I have one. I have the Millennium one.
And it was tremendous for rioting. Would absolutely break through a riot shield. It's huge. In fact, it must have, what I never understood, and I think part of the reason our economy has historically been in trouble is because I'd say a punt costs about £1.50 to make. And I'd say that's what
listen, euros don't feel like real money.
But that's why they work, because a euro probably costs about half a cent to make.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing, right? If like when you go to England and you're using like pounds, you're like, it feels like real money, and it does. When you're in America, you're like, that's a good currency you have there, because it's all notes, and it's like, it's grand, it feels like real money. And when you're using the euro, you're like, this feels like monopoly money. It doesn't feel like real money. But when you do hold the punt, you're like, oh yeah, there's a good bit of weight to that, you know. So I mean, look,
the punt feels like when we used to trade in like silver and stuff.
Yeah, it feels it feels like it has value because it did.
Imagine you had like one of those bags, you know, with the rope on the top, and it was full of punt. You know,
like what? One of the old timey like
yeah,
you know, coin purses.
I'd say Judas betrayed Jesus for 30 punt. I'd say.
Well, I mean, you could buy a house and a car and, you know, with everything.
Oh, my God.
You had 13 punts back in the day. That was it.
And I've changed for a chalk ice. Like.
Exactly. Look, I don't know. We're not
30 punt in the day would have bought you WWE and UFC.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Punk would be working for you for 5 punts, you know?
But and he'd actually show up to work.
He would, yeah. He'd be happy for it.
Wouldn't assault your mother.
Look, we're not really a political podcast here on this, but what I will say is look, I think everyone can agree, bring the punts back because the Euro's not working out. I mean, great idea and all, but the punts are just amazing. And
it's such a great word. It rhymes with cunt, which we're on the podcast.
Thank God we're on the podcast. So look, I mean, if you guys haven't seen the punts, they actually are pretty cool. Like the actual design and everything on them is amazing. The Euros, they're just kind of shit. It's just kind of shit.
Like not just like the punt, like all the punt coins were class.
Oh, look, class, and the coins, like the notes and everything looked amazing. So
like the 50, I think the 50p punt was the only thing deadlier than the pound punt. The 50p punt was thicker and heavier.
Yeah.
And then the 20p had a big golden horse on it. I mean, you can't beat that.
It did, yeah.
Like you're going to buy, you know, like a bag of meanies. It's like, how many is that? How much is a bag of meanies? It's 3 golden horses. There you go.
No, it's not the same. I mean, sorry, it really isn't. And I know a lot of things are digital, but it's just like, can we just have the punts back? There you go. I think that would like fix a lot of things. Just bring the punt back. That's all we want. You know.
In fact, for all of Europe, replace the euro with the punt.
There you go. I mean, like, I know you lads had the other currency, but that's kind of lame. The punt's a lot better. Trust me, you'll like it. But you know what's cool though, right?
Punts is like walking around with a pocket full of manhole covers. Yes, that's how you know you have money.
It feels like money. I will have to say, like, I'm a big fan of coins. Like you know, there's a really cool thing in Rome. You can see all like the Roman coins and stuff. And like euros just don't feel that way. You know, they don't look the same. Punts definitely did. Like the English money, yeah, I mean, yeah, it definitely feels like money, you know, but yeah, we never should have given that up. Never should have given that up. Hopefully we'll get it back one day. I hope
you mean the punt, not the English money.
Oh no,
we don't need that back. That was
no,
the problem.
No, we don't need that back. No. The punt. We need the punt back.
We do.
Anyway. So, guys, you know, we don't rarely make political statements, but we will stand over that one. Bring the punt back. Wrestling Rewind. Okay.
Now.
Goldust.
In the middle of Marty Jannetty and Razor Ramon versus
Hold on.
Psycho Kid.
I need to explain something first, right? So, for anyone that doesn't know, when Goldust, Dustin Reynolds, was initially offered this role... I think Vince rang him and said, you know, he wants an androgynous role, and he didn't really know what that was, and he just agreed to it, right? And it would eventually become a bit more like that, where he's like this, for want of a better word, starlet, but like in a serial killer way, you know, with some homoerotic overtones. That's what it kind of became.
They gave him Marlena because Dustin Reynolds got the gay stuff over too much. Like he generate. Now, bear in mind, this is the 90s. Any of our listeners now who are from our LGBTQ family, we love you all very much.
Oh, more than welcome, absolutely.
But this is 90s wrestling.
This is 90s wrestling.
This is not a welcoming place.
And if you see, well, I mean, look, anyone listening to the show knows when we read out signs from the crowd.
Yeah.
That the you know, and certain groups get picked on a lot more than others, and you know, that's the whole point of this character, was to exploit that. And
Well, to push that button, and
boy,
God,
did Goldust push this button.
Vince McMahon said, "Goldust, I'm gonna need you to push that button," and Goldust said, "Can I push it with my tongue?"
I think can he push it with his, because I mean it's so bizarre. And I mean, yeah, he's known as the bizarre one, but it's like, it's not that what he's doing is bizarre. It's that like the time that he's doing it in is so like crazy. Like you'd see this later on with Lando Jordan would do something similar in TNA, where he'd come out dressed like Lady Gaga and squirt sunblock all over his chest, which is that happened, and that's like even further again.
And it's kind of nice, like as a, I mean, obviously that's not nice, but it's kind of nice as a kind of testament to how far things have come. That I think it was only like 4 weeks ago, the Acclaimed were wrestling.
Yes.
And,
yes.
There was I can't remember who it was, but there was a female wrestler like tried to distract Anthony Bowens by coming on to him, and Anthony Bowens was like, "That's not gonna work. I'm mad gay." And then the whole crowd, instead of being like a 90s WCW crowd, because, and I'm not one to get tribal, but WCW was definitely worse.
Yeah,
for
they
the
were
homophobic
they
stuff.
were a lot worse
They
for the whole,
were
like
so much worse.
the slurs that come from WCW are
My
like
God.
that bit beyond, you know.
But the whole crowd starts chatting, "He's gay." But it's like, it's a celebration, not an accusation.
Not exactly. Sure, look, even when Punk had his last match with so he went over to a young one in the crowd with like an LGBT sign.
Trans rights thing. Yeah. So
And,
like
I mean that's how far we are away from this. So it's weird to see Goldust do this, but then at the same time you're like, it was 35 years ago, you know?
Like, so before we get into the detail of it, because man, I can't wait to get into the detail of it, but just one more thing to say about the whole situation as a whole is, obviously, like, the main people who were hurt by this kind of rhetoric were actual gay people. Like, obviously, if you love wrestling and you tune into wrestling and you see your sexuality being used as an insult, that's gonna hurt.
And it's never cool.
And it's never cool.
No.
But that does not take away from the fact. In fact, it only emphasizes the fact that Dustin Reynolds, in that atmosphere, in that era, went at this and went at it hard. The balls.
Oh, yeah.
That man. Like, he legitimately could have been stabbed at events. He could have been, like, and again, that's not to say that, like, in the 80s, 90s, like, actual gay people weren't facing, like, violence. They obviously were. I'm just saying, as a performer, he chose to take on this role, even though he initially didn't know what the word androgynous meant. But my God, the balls on that man to take on this role and run this. Holy hell.
So what happened in this segment?
Well, the Todd Pettengill,
Pettengill.
He wasn't petting Goldust, I'll tell you that. Comes up to him and Goldust says, "Todd, are you here for an affair?" And Todd is like, "What?" And then Goldust start going, "Look at Razor Ramon. What a picture of masculinity. That hairy chest. that Roman jawline." This is a direct quote.
It is. It's a direct quote.
I could drown in a hormonal wave. A direct quote from WWF in 1995. Drown in a hormonal wave. And then he gives him a letter to give to Razor Ramon. A match is happening, by the way. A match is happening during this literary assault that is how Razor Ramon doesn't even realize he's being molested.
It's important as well to remember that, like, it's not only like the match is happening, but it's in split screen.
Yeah,
so you know.
So glad we are in the podcast, because I this is the only phrase that adequately describes what's happening, because you've heard the words, right? You've heard what he says, but you haven't seen how he says it. You haven't seen the face, right?
Yeah.
Goldust is a character. Dustin Reynolds is an actual man, a heterosexual, Texas born and bred man, right? And he is so committed to that character that he is looking at Razor Ramon like he wants to fuck the shit out of him. Like he is fully undressing him during this promo. So a couple of years ago, like I read in one of the books that Goldust had said to Vince McMahon, I was like, look, this character, like I'm really committed. Like if you want to go the whole hog, we'll go the whole hog. And Goldust offered to get breast implants.
Yes.
Right? Now, I never believed that. Until I saw him fucking the shit out of Razor Ramon. I was like, that man is so dedicated to this role. I totally believe he would get titties.
Well, there's a reason why he went in and did the whole sin gimmick in WCW and that, because, he was properly committed to it. So
yeah,
it's one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen, and I'm watching wrestling a long time. Purely because, look, as I said, the Orlando Jordan thing is a lot more overt with what they're trying to do, and that upset a lot of people as well. Because when you see it, words can't really describe what it is. When you see it, you're like, you know what? Okay, but with this, it's just more bizarre because it's just a normal wrestling match in 1995, and then Goldust, and you're like, whoa. So they had moments where, even though this was like,
if they had the balls to really run with this character, it would have been something groundbreaking.
Well, it's not even if they had the balls, because they did run with it, right? But it wasn't even that. It was like they didn't know what they wanted to do yet. Like, look, even though Vince Russo can be blamed and should be blamed for a lot of things, when he did eventually take over writing WWE and had it in that kind of car crash focus thing, Goldust, unfortunately, was a little bit too early. If this had been 2 years later, there you go. You could have had a full on, you could have had a full on Jerry Springer thing with
if he had popped up during the Attitude Era.
Exactly.
He would have been amazing. But it was the fact that by the time the Attitude Era came around, the crowd was used to him. Like everybody.
Yeah, that's the problem.
During the first 6 months.
Actually the problem. Actually the problem, yeah.
During the first 6 months, Goldust pushed that homophobia button so hard that he was literally ordered to tone it down. And they gave him Marlena to tone it down. So that they could say, look, no, he's not actually gay. He's just odd. Like Marlena comes out and she's smoking a big cigar, so she's kind of like a man, and blah. Like Goldust scared the shit out of them because he went out there and he did the thing too good. Yeah.
Speaking of doing something too good, I need to mention this casket match that nearly killed The Undertaker. And this is the reason why The Undertaker didn't ever want to feud with Viscera.
Oh.
It was this casket match where his face was already broken because I think it was because of a match with Mabel. I think it was another casket match with Mabel where he broke his face. But this feud is pretty much the reason why the
also almost broke Diesel's spine.
Yes, it's true. So when you're watching these matches with King Mabel and Undertaker, this is exactly why Taker was like, you know what? He's going to be my buddy. He's going to be in my stable. I never want to wrestle him again. Yeah. And I think that is why...
We're never breaking up and we're never feuding and we're best friends.
No matter what, we're never feuding. And I think this proves why Taker's the smartest guy in wrestling.
This is why I stay so close to Dara, because he has sent me videos of him doing his roundhouse kick in training. I will never betray him. We'll always be on the same team. I
appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, with with this match, like it wasn't a bad match. It wasn't like a great match, but it was kind of like how. Like, I guess my question on this one, and it'll probably answer the entire feelings of this. King Mabel, do you ever think that he could have got over? Like with this match, it was him at his like peak. He's against the Undertaker, and he's in a gimmick match.
No,
this is the best that he can do.
King Mabel, no. Viscera, maybe.
Yeah.
The problem was never actually with him. I mean, this isn't a great match.
No.
He actually doesn't have a history of great matches. But what he does, if you put him in the right match, put Viscera or Mabel in like a short, vicious, heavy-hitting match, he can really surprise you because he is agile and he is athletic for a big man. And I mean, he's not a big man like Vader or a big man like Big Show. He's a big man as in scarily obese. Like, and he pulls out some stuff in this match. It's pretty cool. He's pulled out some stuff in other matches that is like sometimes his enziguri is like a genuinely surprising kick to the head, and sometimes his enziguri is like a, gently tickling the person's elbow. That's about as high as he gets. So I definitely think that with the right gimmick, he absolutely could have gotten over. But he just never got the right gimmick. And of all the gimmicks he had, this purple and gold onesie
was definitely not it.
Just the worst.
You know what's interesting though? When I was watching this match, it reminded me a lot of the WrestleMania 23 match where Undertaker went against Mark Henry.
Oh, that's disappointing to hear because I always liked Mark Henry.
No. What I'm saying is that's this match done well.
Oh, right.
And I was just like, maybe they were, And
is
that's
that the one where Rusev tweeted, "Bury me gently, brother," and then they took him out of the match?
No. This was like, it's the same WrestleMania that Foley and Edge had their match.
Oh, wow.
So it's going way back. Yeah, I think it's 2008. But that match, I was just like, I was watching. Oh, no, sorry. It would have been 2005. When I was watching like this, I was like, oh, okay. So it took them 10 years to figure out how to do this match, but they finally got there. And it just wasn't with Mabel. It was with someone much more talented in Mark Henry. Okay, so Ramon and Marty Jannetty defeated the 1-2-3 Kid. Ahmed Johnson defeated Bully Landell, who actually is Balls Mahoney, believe it or not.
You've mixed some.
No, I mixed them up. No,
you've
sorry.
Mixed some stuff up there.
I have. Sorry. I jumped ahead.
Oh my God! We need to get a picture of Buddy Landell up on the website.
No, of course. No, because sorry. So who was he?
Well, he's Buddy Landell. That's who he was. So here's where you're mixing up. So Jeff Jarrett came out.
I wish he was Balls Mahoney. Sorry, I have my notes.
It would have been better. But
no, Balls Mahoney was the Santa Claus.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
There's stuff around this. So Jeff Jarrett came out. Here's a thing I learned literally just today while looking up stuff, because I do a bit of research for these podcasts. Do you know who Jeff Jarrett's babysitter was?
No.
A young lady called
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Oh my God, it's amazing. You did tell me this.
Did I tell you that already?
Yeah, I know this. I don't know why I know this, so you might have said this to me before.
I couldn't believe it. I was looking it up. I was like, that's the most bizarre thing I've ever read.
But not really, because I mean, she was big into country music, and Jeff Jarrett legitimately likes country music.
Well, here's what I want to ask. So obviously, when Jeff Jarrett came back, his whole "It Ain't Me, Baby" or "Kiss Me, Baby" tour, whatever he called his tour, was fake. There was never any tour. But he legitimately did put out the single "Kiss Me, Baby," and he's holding the thing saying 500,000 sales. Is that legitimate? Like, did it?
I don't know.
That, like, because sometimes WWE surprises.
I don't think so.
Yeah, but sometimes you're like Everton in WWE is fake, and then you learn that like the whole Cyber Sunday, Taboo Tuesday thing is totally legit. Like they actually went with whatever the vote said. So like I don't know. Like so I looked it up on YouTube, and there is legitimately a single. Like Jeff Jarrett has that "Kiss Me Baby" or whatever it is single out on YouTube, like it's there, it's recorded. So like 500,000 sales in the United States is not a lot of sales.
Well, see, it's the album that was supposed to be like "With My Baby Tonight" was the song.
With My Baby Tonight.
Yeah, and that like legitimately is a banger, right? I know that did well.
But it's sung by the Road Dog.
Yeah, which makes it kind of better, right? But I mean.
And they brought Jeff Jarrett back, but not the Road Dog.
the single, okay, on it. The single was legitimate, okay? The album wasn't.
No, of course not.
So I think they might have like conflated the two, but no, I think it is BS because the album I don't even think exists, but the song does, and the song is a banger, even though it's sung by the Road Dog.
So anyway, they have this.
Jeff Jarrett my God! You know what'd be amazing if Taylor Swift covers it.
Oh, doesn't she actually kind of owe Jeff Jarrett that?
Come on! I mean, think about it.
Like, you were like a teenage girl looking for work, and Jeff Jarrett put his children in your trust and paid you. You owe him "With My Baby Tonight." One time.
Just one time.
But anyway, this all morphs into an Ahmed Johnson versus Buddy Landell match.
Oh, it's atrocious.
Lasts. Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, it doesn't last long enough to be atrocious. It's 43 seconds.
Yeah.
But what got me about it was, even in the 43 seconds, it's not a very good match. But what got me about it is that in this era of WWE, like nobody's really doing hard hit moves. Nobody's doing like New Japan style moves or anything like that. Maybe Diesel's like that jackknife powerbomb has always terrified me. It always looks terrifying.
It's the height. It's because he's so big. He's so tall.
But I gotta say, Ahmed Johnson's Pearl River Plunge is basically just a Tiger Driver. Man, I don't know if it's just because the era that it's in, like nothing else looks particularly good, that it looks terrifying, or that it's just actually a genuinely terrifying move. But for me, like the match is nothing, but I thought the finish was great.
Well, look, we have 10 minutes left of this show, right? I would say the hog pen match, those matches, I think it might be my least liked match I've ever seen. I think the only time I've ever seen that kind of work has been with Vicky Guerrero. You're not missing anything. Owen Hart, unfortunately, it's a disqualification win over Diesel, which he deserved better than that. Undertaker obviously
that was the Owen Hart thing was heartbreaking because
it was
an Owen Hart Diesel match could have been amazing.
Yeah, I was expecting so much more from that. And
like Owen, even though it wasn't a great match, was committed because he was bumping his arse off for it. And the end, like they didn't even get a good end. The finish was stupid.
You know what's weird to say? Just before you say that.
Yeah.
I always assumed Triple H was punished for the curtain call incident, right? But he's in a hog pen match now, and this is obviously like a couple of months before the curtain call happens. Why do you think he was given such a bad match?
Well, like maybe it wasn't a bad match. Like, I mean, like no, it's obviously a bad match, but maybe it wasn't in the eyes of the booker. It wasn't a bad match. They were going, look, we got this guy Triple H. He's up and coming. So he's obviously not the top guy. He's not going to be the main event or anything. But we're going to put him in like a featured, like the hog pen, like, as ridiculous as it was. So for anyone who doesn't know, it was literally a wooden fence area outside the ring, covered in shit, with 5 or 6 literal live pigs in it. And the loser was whoever got thrown in the hog pen.
Mm.
So like, I mean, like we can all say it's like, oh my God, he's been punished or this was terrible. But I mean, I think this is just WWF at the time. He was he was in a featured match, and look, a lot of this pay-per-view has to do at the time, right? So lots of these matches aren't good, but the crowd are hot as fuck for them.
That's what's interesting about this.
Yeah.
The crowd the whole time are like vibrating. They're that into it.
The Undertaker match is shit. The crowd never stops for it.
No,
this
they love
Henry
it.
O'Godwin gimmick is bullshit. The crowd is apoplectic for it. Like the crowd
Also,
is wild.
Triple H is cut up in his back and he's rolling around in that shit. And I'm like, that's how a staph infection happens.
One
manky.
of the many infections you would be open to. What I would say about this match is like the actual match when they had it in the ring, it was fine. It was back and forth. It was like I say about a lot of these matches, it's kind of a sort of a typical Raw affair.
Yeah.
The end was surprising because everybody expected.
It is pretty funny though. Triple H just get hit in the head with like a Coke at the end of it, which I just noticed.
This is one of the best bits, right? So the match ends. Triple H actually wins. Henry O'Godwin runs at him, and Triple H does a backflip. Now, what a backdrop! Like
Absolutely.
Henry O'Godwin goes for it. He launches himself about 4 feet in the air, and I searched for it because I was full sure there must be a letter from PETA about this match because he comes within inches of killing a pig. It's like these are live pigs in the pen, and when Triple H does the backdrop, Henry Godwin almost lands on one of them. So he wins the match, but then he gets his heat back by getting Triple H in the pig pen, and he body slams him. And like you said, Triple H has like a really substantial cut on his back, and he gets slammed in the pig shite, and he's slipping and falling about. You love Triple H. I'm not a big fan, but he is really good at a heel selling indignation.
Yes.
He's awesome at that.
Always has been, yeah.
And then just at the peak of his indignation, he's covered in pig shit and he's slipping and sliding around in it. This is why wrestling beats any other kind of entertainment. A fan chucks a full can, or no, a cup
of
Coke at him, and it just bounces clean off his head.
It is wonderful. It might actually be like the highlight of the show. It really is, yeah.
Because it was so. Do you know what it's up there with? It's up there with Cody getting beaten at WrestleMania, and like this big emotional. Oh my God, I thought this was the end of my story. And then someone throws a rubber chicken in the ring. It's amazing.
We don't condone like that stuff happening. It's like a chair shot where you're like, oh, but then it's also like, that was pretty fun. That was pretty awesome. Yeah. Okay, so we've kind of touched on it in about 5 minutes. I'm gonna the Bret Hart British Bulldog match. He's your guy.
He is.
Go for it.
Okay, but before I go for it, I need to tell you one more thing. So, in order to get the pigs into the hog pen match, they had to, you can't just land. I don't know. You're not a farmer, Dara. I don't know how many of your listeners are farmers.
No, I'll be honest with you. I've seen a cow in person 1 or 2 times. I've been up close with them maybe twice, and every time it's like, damn, that's a big animal. So that shows you I have very little experience with farm animals at all. I'll be honest with you. You
can herd cattle. You can herd goats. You can't herd sheep or pigs. Sheep or pigs.
Really? Hold on. What the sheepdogs do?
Well, actually, you have me there. If you have a sheepdog, you can herd sheep.
Yeah, I have 2 sheepdogs.
if you let them out, you can't. They're not like big lumbering docile creatures that just go whatever way you.
Oh, okay.
Shout.
They'll actually try to resist.
No, it's not No, they do the opposite. Like if you shout at a load of cows, hold on, they kind of just move away from you.
Right.
But if you do that at sheep or pigs, they scatter.
Oh wow. Okay.
They go everywhere. So, in order to get the pigs into the hog pen, WWF had to take all their like guard railings for the crowd and that, and create like a tunnel, literally from the like one of the backlot truck areas directly to the hog pen, right? And put the pigs through it. Now they got the pigs in.
So much effort. Go on.
They got the pigs in and they had the pig match. Some joker, and from what I've researched, the consensus seems to be that it was, of all people, Pat Patterson. When the pigs were being taken back, changed the fences so that the pigs, until the end of the show, were kept in Vince McMahon's office. And apparently, this will shock you, apparently Vince McMahon was furious.
I don't blame him. I'd be upset too.
Furious.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
The other wee tidbit I have for you is we already touched on it, how Santa shows up in the show.
He does. Not played by Mick Foley.
Not played by Mick Foley, played by Balls Mahoney. And so Santa shows up. Now, Santa gets paid off by the $1 Million Man, and he smacks Savio Vega with his big sack of toys or whatever. It turned out, in one of the calls of the night, Vince McMahon goes, "That can't be the real Santa." It's an absolute miracle as to why WCW is beating them at the time.
Yeah, it's
but
terrible stuff.
They took this Santa character anyway, and they turned him into Xanta with an X.
Oh God!
And he wasn't from the North Pole; he was from the South Pole.
Oh God! And
he didn't have dwarves who made toys. He had giants that made guns.
Oh no!
And this now, so obviously this is around Christmas time. Xanta only lasted for another 2 weeks. But
I'm actually having a look here at WrestleCrap, and it's yeah, he's up there. It's really, actually, we interviewed R.D. Reynolds years ago. I'll try to find the interview and put it up on the feed, but my God, yeah, this is a bad gimmick, Ari.
But here's the thing. So you think Xanta was only around for another couple of weeks? Yeah, because it was Christmas. Blah. No. Apparently Vince McMahon wanted to keep Xanta as a full-on character. But the reason they didn't was because Xanta was played by Balls Mahoney.
Yes.
Who, as we have talked about in previous episodes, was a flaming dickhead. And Balls Mahoney got it in his head that someone had been talking shit about him to the dirt sheets. And he decided that it was Vince Russo, who was working for WWE at the time, but working as like their... do you remember like the WWF magazine or the Raw magazine or whatever it was called?
Yeah.
He was like the editor at the time. And Balls Mahoney got it in his head that Vince Russo had leaked some bullshit about him to the dirt sheets. So he rang up Titan Towers. He said he wants to talk to Vince Russo. And they put him through, and he ripped the fucking balls out of Russo. He called him every fucking cunt of the day, told him he's going to kill him, told him he's going to bait him up and blah, 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 whatever. And then the person on the other side of the phone said, "Are you aware you've been put through to Vince McMahon?"
Oh, ho, ho.
And that's why the Xanta thing never happened. But apparently it was intended to be like an ongoing character.
Well, we would eventually see Balls Mahoney in TNA and Impact as Cojones. And when we saw him on Hardcore Justice, if you haven't seen a review of Hardcore Justice, but when Martin asks, I do try to provide. And, that's when ECW wanted to say goodbye to themselves their own way. They got Hardcore Justice.
The worst way possible. Speaking of ECW, the main event, which is the only good match on the show, and the only reason beyond Goldust's verbal rape, the the only reason to actually watch this show, Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog, goes about 22 minutes. Is a fantastic match. Bret Hart and the Bulldog have incredible chemistry because every Bulldog match I've ever seen, apart from the two he has with Bret Hart, are bullshit. This is an incredible match. Not only is it an incredible match, but in the middle of this match, in 1995, Bret Hart decides, do you know what this match needs? Fucking juice. And he blades. Oh. My God, does he blade? Like, he Eddie Guerrero blades here. And it gives the match incredible drama. Like, this whole match is that the British Bulldog is this huge pounding monster, and Bret Hart's a technical wrestler, and the Bulldog is just ragdolling Bret the whole way through. He's beating the living hell out of him, and Bret is pissing blood. He's injured, he's bait, and he eventually overcomes, much like the Diesel match from Survivor Series the previous month.
Yes.
He out-wrestles him. Doesn't beat him, doesn't like knock him out and pin him, but he gets him in like a pinning predicament and out-wrestles him. But the big thing about this match is that it's an excellent match, but if they had capitalized on the drama of Bret Hart bleeding, this would have been a 5-star match. But Vince at the time was so panicked about blood being on like pay-per-view shows and stuff that even while he's in like commentator character, like not the owner, he starts shouting, only do wide shots, only do wide angles, don't do any close-ups. So the rest of this match, and it's so weird because earlier in the night they actually advertised the WrestleMania arcade game. The rest of this match looks like the WrestleMania arcade game because it's purely shot from wide angles, like from far away, because they don't want to show the blood. What do you think of this match?
Pretty much the same as you. I mean, look, we were desperate for some kind of good content. I knew Bret Hart and Davey would do it, but it wasn't good. Like the end of it was just disappointing. As far as like, look, we knew Bret was going to win, but there was no real, like, they spent the whole, for me, it wasn't so much the wrestling that was disappointing. It was, they had been built up to this story, and then, as you said, all the nonsense around it just kind of ruins it. You know, they built it up as a blood feud, they gave us blood, and then it's just all the air, it's like all the airs was let out immediately at that point. And a good match was just kind of like, oh, okay. And look, Bret Hart won, the better guy won. But I just think it has been over 30 years on this, I think people are right to say this is probably one of the worst shows in WWE history. And it's not so much because, like, we've often said that when these shows cook, they're better than the sum of their parts. They're also worse than the sum of their parts, because individually there are some good moments in this. There are some good match-ups. The match themselves just don't really work out. And I think that's kind of where we see here, where we have like a pretty good main event ruined by what happens at the end and then taken down by what came before it. This show was kind of, ironically, it's the more expensive of all the other shows that we've seen so far. Like it is the most expensive of all the shows we've seen in this series, but it didn't make it good. And it's unfortunate. It really is. But that's what I thought about the show overall. Martin, have you got any closing thoughts on this while we wrap up?
Closing thought? I mean, no. Like, the reason I wanted to do this In Your House arc is not because they're all bangers or anything. It's because In Your House only lasts for 19 episodes. There are only ever 19 episodes of In Your House. So we're actually a quarter of the way through it.
And I had a look at the next one, and the next one actually looks pretty good.
Well, this is it, because In Your House, the reason I want to do it isn't because they're great. It's because it charts the WWF's transition from the absolute depths of New Generation to when New Generation actually got really good. And then when it transitioned into the Attitude Era, and then it kind of dies at the peak of or just before the peak of the Attitude Era. So it's a really good way of, without going episode to episode every single Raw, which would take forever. It's a really good way of charting that transition from 95 into the Attitude Era.
Absolutely.
So like that does mean we're going to have to sift through some dung.
Just like the hog pen match.
Just like sifting through the dung, sometimes you come across a diamond, and
You do.
sometimes
sometimes you get hit in the head with a fan.
with a can of Coke. a cup of Coke. But so yeah, a lot of shit. But amongst the shit, there is truly amazing Goldust promo that makes you wonder, my God, if they had a run with this promo, or if this character had happened in 97, just the world would have been different. And also there is and I think it's okay to call it a hidden gem, because like I'm an enormous Bret Hart fan, and even I'd never seen this match before. So overall
totally
terrible,
fair.
but there's stuff there.
That's fair. And I think, I will back that up as well. I hope you all enjoyed the show this week. Next week, we're going to, we're probably going to move on to another arc. There is some TNA stuff coming up, some Impact Wrestling stuff. We're going to cover that. Impact 1000 was last week.
So we're going to watch it?
Yeah, we're probably going to look at that. And Bound for Glory's coming up as well. So
nice.
We have a bunch of stuff kind of like in the pipeline, so that's why we go over to social media and check it all out, because that's where it's going to be announced, because me and Martin are trying to get better at like announcing stuff beforehand. And yeah, thank you all so much. And again, if you want to reach us, you can thewrestlingrewind.com. My Twitter is @DarraWV. From Martin, do you have anything to plug before we go, Martin?
Yes. Any of our listeners who want to, if you email me, we can start an affair.
Or email Dave if you want to start an affair with Dave. You can do that too.
Email Dave.
I think he'd appreciate it. Or at Dave. At D Dave Stevens, go, Dave, I want an affair.
I have to say now, I love Dave. He's a great guy. If you have an affair with Dave, it will be in much nicer hotel rooms. But I don't think Dave could match myself for just pure vigor.
There you go. No. So you have your pick. You have your pick of the two lads. To have a Goldust style affair with.
Do you want to be humped in a hotel room, or do you want to be rode in the back of a car?
And on that note, guys, we'll talk to you next week here on the Wrestling Rewind. Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.